Hey VC, Big Star 1000, with a third and final installment for this Gimme 10 series on the West Coast sound. We've talked in previous episodes about 60s Californian folk rock, 60s folk. We've spoken about artists such as Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Joni Mitchell, and Love and the Birds, Neil Young. And today I'm going to continue this odyssey into the 70s and more commercial sounds. We're still in the land of three-part harmony, very sunny music. But we're no longer in living the hippie dream. We're moving on from that, and we hitting the harsh reality of the 70s. Um, but nonetheless, the music is mesmerizing, and there is a sense of optimism buried somewhere in there. But as I said, the hippie dream is well and truly over by that time. And what I've done here is I've selected 10 records that still embody that Californian sound down to a T, really the essence of what started as folk rock in the 60s. But as I said, has evolved into something a bit more, um, yeah, a bit more commercial, I'd say. And when we talk about yacht rock and soft rock, there's often this kind of negative connotation associated with those styles of music because it's seen. You picture people on boats, with Hawaiian shirts and captain hats, and in fact, you know, whilst we can laugh at that, some of the music is actually really distinguished and funky, and of course, yes, well produced and slick, and maybe a bit too slick for some tastes. But once you get into it, as I have, um, you can't deny that there's something infectious about all these albums. There's something really amazing about it, and I hope this Gimme 10 can provide you with a springboard to explore those records. And if not, don't watch because I don't want to waste 10 or 15 minutes of your life talking about yacht rock. So the first records on this list that I've chosen here is the debut album by Steely Dan, Can't Buy a Thrill, which came out on ABC in 1972. And this record is, I think, in my opinion, different to the rest of Steely Dan's discography. Uh, well, of course, this is a quintessential Californian record, even though Walter Becker and Donald Fagen came from New York and were hardcore New Yorkers. This is through and through a Californian record. It was recorded at the Village Recorder in LA, and the session musicians are local musicians as well. Features the great guitar of Jeff Skunk Baxter, which we'll talk about in the next record. This album opens with the fantastic Do It Again, which is one of my favorite tracks, full stop. Not just Steely Dan, but it's such a powerful track. Starts with this line of conga with this amazing, yeah, drumming pattern at the start, and that guitar, and is punctuated by a solo of electric sitar from Dennis Diaz. Um, it sets the mood for the whole record, and as a result, this is a very funky and groovy record. Do It Again also is well, not Do It Again. Dirty Work is a great song too, and you've got the hit Reeling in the Years on this. Thoroughly recommend Can't Buy a Thrill. It's kind of a little bit glam, a little bit um, West Coast rock, and it sort of merges influences. It's very polished, yes, but it's a beautiful record. So Steely Dan, number one on this list. One of the most quintessential bands of that genre I'm trying to cover here, of yacht rock, soft rock, and quintessentially Californian as well. It's got to be the Doobie Brothers, the mighty Doobies. This is their second album, The Captain and Me, from 1973. Second or third album, I've lost the count here. And um, this is the Brothers before um, Michael McDonald joined. So it's a different version, like because they've evolved and changed a lot over the years. So here we still have a largely rock band with touches of funk here and there. I mean, everybody knows the great hit "Long Train Running," which is really was my introduction to the Doobies years and years ago, and I still think it's a great song, and I still to this day ask myself how this guitar player can actually keep the rhythm for the whole of the song, because it's amazing. It's such, you know, such deft guitar playing. Also contains great tunes, A Natural Thing, and you've got Without You, and the title track, Captain Me. It's just a beautiful record. It's cheap. You can get this anywhere, and it rocks hard at times. It's just a great record. I mean, so if you've never explored the Captain and Me, a worthy inclusion here. Also from 1973, we have this more obscure record by this band called Bateau. Two brothers, David and Robin Bateau, who are originally from Boston, and released this, or released this record in whilst in LA. So it is a very much Californian infused record. This, in my opinion, is almost a perfect record. It's got sublime vocal harmonies. The songwriting is top notch. It's got this kind of folk funk vibe to it. The opener sets the tone. Tell her she's lovely. But then it just continues this sort of high standard, like in the next song, Living's Worth Loving, and Wake Me in the Morning, Katie. This just a beautiful, beautiful record, and I highly recommend it. This is an original pressing. You can get a reissue of this on B Music from England. They've done a good reissue of this. I thoroughly recommend this record. It's funky. It's soaked in Californian sun. It's a beautiful, beautiful record. Okay, we're now going to jump to 1976, and I'm going to talk about the record that really sums up the whole scene. And this record is none other than the mighty Hotel California by the Eagles. I mean, this is the quintessence of the West Coast sound, summed up in 10 songs. And the title track is itself the quintessence of that sound, with its, multi-part harmonies, and I mean, it's just anthemic, classic. And you look at this sleeve. I mean, everybody knows it. Everybody's seen it. But Hotel California sounds like a nightmare at the same time. It sounds like a dream. It's a fabulous, fabulous record, and the whole record is great. I mean, the title track overshadows everything. But when you've got a band that is comprised of pretty much five lead vocalists. I mean, this band has got Glenn Frey, Randy Mesner, you've got Joe Walsh, you've got Don Henley, obviously, and you've got Don Felder. This is a who's who of that time period. If you've never delved into Hotel California as an album, and you think you've been dismissing it, and you think it's just a load of rubbish, it's just a stunning record. But you've got to accept it as a stunning record. I think. Uh, who knows? You might even like it. The next record is slightly off center from the genre I'm trying to cover, but it still fits in there, in my opinion. And I'm talking about the absolutely fantastic Fly Like an Eagle by the Steve Miller Band. Now, Steve Miller was an extraordinarily gifted guitar player, singer, who hailed from Texas and whose father was exposed him to a lot of great musicians. I think Les Paul was a regular visitor to the Miller household, um, and then he relocated to San Francisco and proceeded to make lots of really interesting records with the Steve Miller Band. It was the rock's um, most unlikely rock star because he was just such an average person. But this record from 1976, for me personally, is a masterpiece. There's probably a couple of songs that I don't dig entirely, but in the opener, "Fly Like an Eagle" is one of the best songs that I know. Full stop. It's just brilliant, and it just continues that mood. Um, it's just like if you've gone past this a million times in the record store and you've never stopped, this is a fantastic, fantastic record. Sure, it doesn't really fit in that three-part harmony, sunshine rock that I'm talking about, but it does fit in this list. So highly, highly, highly recommended. In the early days of the Steve Miller Band, the singer in the Steve Miller Band, when they were a psychedelic band, was none other than Buzz Skaggs, who is a very, very good friend of Steve Miller. Buzz Skaggs is, you would call him a blue-eyed soul singer. I would say this is his probably his crowning achievement, Silk Degrees, which represents and embodies everything about that Californian sound from the mid 70s, um, from its amazing record sleeve where he's sitting by the Pacific Ocean and you've got his hand on the side, that mysterious hand. There's something ultra slick about this whole production, but when I'm just completely enamored with that, with those visuals. The songs, you've got Lido Shuffle, you've got What Can I Say, you've got Low Down. I mean, it's such a funky record as well. It's like this has been sampled to death because it's just a really, really funky, soulful record. So rather than, yes, a West Coast rock record, it's probably a West Coast soul record, but it's a brilliant, brilliant piece of music. Still from 1976. This is a more obscure record, but I think it's worth exploring if you are interested. And this is Ned Doheny with Hard Candy. I think it's his second album. Ned Doheny was from Malibu, or is from Malibu. He's still alive, California. And again, the sleeve here reflects everything to do with this sort of Californian lifestyle, from the palm tree to the ocean. This is the 2014 reissue on B Music. Be With, sorry, Be With Records, not B Music. I realized that when I was talking about the Battery reissue, that's what I'm talking about. Be With Records. So rectification here. This is a lovely, lovely, really funky melodic record. Um, yeah, sleek, yeah, overproduced at times, but the songs are really strong. The opener, I just really encourage you to pause this video and listen to "Get It Up for Love," because you've got there the quintessence really of that mid '70s sound. It's a fantastic, fantastic record. Hard Candy. All right. Now, could I really make this video without mentioning this record? Now, I don't think I need to present this record very much. Uh, this is obviously one of the highest selling records ever. But nonetheless, it's also one of the most amazing collection of songs ever recorded. That's why it sold so many units. I mean, this is often my argument that back in the 70s, um, popular music, popular music was also often of very high quality. That you wouldn't press a record in those quantities if the music wasn't of. I mean, you turn on the radio now, and what do you hear? Imagine being in the 70s and you turn on the radio and you hear "Don't Stop" or "The Chain" or "Never Going Back Again" or "You Make Loving Fun," which is my personal favorite track. You that comes on the radio now. What do you hear on the radio on commercial radio? Crap. Yes, you're right. That's true. I listen to a lot of radio, but not commercial radio. This is a fabulous record, and everybody should own Rumors. The thread that connects all three of these videos, these Gimme Tens, is without question the alliance between those three musicians, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. In the first video, I was talking about the Birds, I was talking about Buffalo Springfield, and I was talking about their first record, um, Crosby, Stills, Nash, also self-titled like this one. And in my second video, I talked about the solo David Crosby and the solo Graham Nash record. And so I'm continuing here with this. I mean, we talk about yacht rock, and isn't this just the definition of yacht rock? Yeah, you three dudes, three-part harmony on a yacht, sailing into a land of make believe. We're happy, we're smiley, we've got everything. We have tons of coke. I think this is what it's saying. We have tons of cocaine, and we are going to just sniff it relentlessly. That's what I get from this picture when I think about it. But this record is a beautiful record, and again, if you want a great sample of this, listen to Dark Star. Dark Star is full on amazing. It's as good as their, you know, if you think of their first album, you've got songs like Wooden Ships or, you know, Long Time Gone. Well, Dark Star fits in there. It's a beautiful, beautiful record. And a lot of cocaine. Last but not least, is a band that, again, embodies California and that slick sound and can't be omitted from this list. And I'm talking about Toto. Toto, obviously, when we think about Toto, we have this image of a super sleek, super overproduced band, much like Steely Dan, really. And you're right, they are slick and they are overproduced. This is their first record from 1978, and these are session musicians. They're really good at what they're doing. They're amazing musicians, and often you get this idea that this polished sound is also just you know too commercial, unlistenable. Um, just again, just listen to Georgie Porgy. There's a song called Georgie Porgy there. This is the third track there. And if you listen to that song, you'll convince yourself that what you knew about Toto is wrong. Okay, I mean we think about Hold the Line. I mean Hold the Line is on there, Rosanna and Africa. I still love those songs. I mean, the songwriting is nothing short of amazing. I mean, they could write songs. It's just that the production and how it's put together in such a really tight and slick manner just turns people off. But I happen to think that sounds great, and this is a great album and a debut record. Uh, um, just give it a try. All right, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this series. I have some other ideas in the works. Notably, I'm going to be talking about psychedelic pop and baroque pop from the 60s to now in my next installment. So I hope you enjoy those. and leave me some comments and talk to me. I love the interaction.